Thank you so
Good
much
morning.
for the invitation to be here. What is the best way to worship? The reading says, in spirit and in truth, in the silence of your soul. It sounds pretty good. Easier said than done, isn't it? Sometimes it feels like restlessness is more a part of our nature than our innate divinity. And, when you think about it, everything that we think and do is an expression of worship, isn't it? And in this materialistic world, it seems that what people worship mainly is their delusion. There are many delusions, and I dare say that we ourselves are guilty of that at times, especially when under the sway of our habits, our desires, and our attachments. It's the ego. Today's reading is basic to Ananda's teachings. It's all about the inward path, the inward journey, the importance of meditation, and the need to withdraw from outer pursuits that inhibit our spiritual progress. And we've been schooled in these teachings ever since we first stepped on this path. And I'm sure that even if you're brand new to Ananda this morning, you get it, that simply going through the motions of any religious practice without the proper consciousness does not translate to being a spiritual person. As Garrison Keillor once put it, sitting in church on Sunday does not make you a Christian any more than sitting in your carport makes you a car. But the fact is, between knowing what we need to do and actually doing it, there's often a period of years and even lifetimes that intervene. We get caught. And it's simply not difficult to overcome that being caught. The reason that we have a reading such as our reading today, and the reason that we need to hear it again and again, is because the message and the inspiration that it imparts are soon overwhelmed by our busy lives, by our commitment to the things that we euphemistically call our personal goals and priorities. There's nothing wrong with these, but we very often, especially through social pressure, get attached to them and forget about our spiritual practices, put them on hold for a time, thinking that we'll get back to them, and then it isn't so easy. So we need readings like the one today to remind us that there's so much more that we need to focus on. Our lives are busy, and things do get in the way. We have children to raise. We have jobs to go to, elders to care for. We have bills to pay, errands to run, duties one right after another, and I'm sure that we all have a wish list of things that, nice things we'd like to acquire along the way. But, that's really not what it's all about. We have to keep these things in perspective, or they draw us away from our joy, our peace of mind. You and I all know that someday we're going to leave this life. And when we do, we're not going to need a moving van or a suitcase or even a toothbrush for the next leg of our journey. Allowing, these things, home, family, career, talents, attachments, all these things that come and go, allowing these to define us is essentially self-defeating, and it keeps us in ego consciousness. And in ego consciousness, we're out of touch with our true nature, our inner bliss. What we need is a new vision of ourselves, a vision of our oneness with all that is. Even science is coming around to the realization of that concept of an indivisible universe. If only we could see it that way too. But how do we do that? Our senses do not cooperate. Our senses tell us that I am here, you are there, and the distance between us delineates that sense of separation that makes us feel that we are separate. And it's that separation that essentially draws us into the outer world and causes us to feel that we're not a part of all of it, that we really have to just pay attention to our own wants and needs. Clearly, a huge part of that problem is our social conditioning. We are conditioned by society to want to fulfill our individual, our separate needs. Society is committed to separation. It feeds on it. And in so many ways, in every form of media, it urges us to seek our happiness outside of ourselves and in outward activity and in things. It even urges us to want more than we need. And when we do that, that's when we really do get caught up and more restless, more anxious. Is it difficult to break the habit of that conditioning? Oh, you bet it is. Society does not favor the person who puts the needs of his soul above those of the outer world, his restless desires of body and mind. But it doesn't take a wizard to break that spell. What it takes is a lot of love. Love God. Love what is. Make better what you can, and trust that God will know how to handle the rest. Love the moment. Love when it gets tough. And when you do, you find that it isn't quite as tough as you might have believed, because that sense of love really does overcome the anxiety, and solutions appear. What is the best way to worship? The best way to worship starts with accepting whatever comes your way as coming from God, and then doing your very best to embrace it, to own it, to work with it, and to love it as an opportunity to make spiritual progress. Swami Kriyananda said that every choice we make, every step we take is either toward or away from God. And so when we are choosing and thinking to move toward God in thought, in deed, in service and devotion, that is the best way to worship. It's that simple. As Master often said repeatedly to his disciples, take care of the minutes, and the years will take care of themselves. And he also said that he would be there with us, ready to guide us toward our ultimate freedom if we would but think him near and invite him along for the ride. What greater gift could there possibly be in this world? It's a joy to be with you. God bless you.
My dance partner here. Good morning, great souls. I just have a few things to say in a poem that I'd like to read. When we come into this temple on Sunday mornings or get together a satsang and pray and meditate, we feel something, and why? Because so many people have already come, prayed, and meditated in that space, and it becomes sacred. And what we feel, at first we might not even have words for it, especially when someone walks in through the door for the first time. We feel an upliftment. There's a higher vibration there. And because it has been touched by so many prayers in the presence of the divine, and that feeling awakens something inside of us. And sometimes, again, we don't have words for it. It's just something, but it feels like a longing. It's kind of a hunger. And that feeling is what encourages and invites people, inspires people to go on a pilgrimage to holy places where saints have lived, to foreign countries where there's so many wonderful stories, and I know Ganga Mata and Daiva are leading pilgrimages. So I say start saving your pennies now, because I think next year they're coming to India.
Start saving your rupees.
Right. Yeah. And that's a fun transition. So the pilgrimage, what is it? It's a journey. It's a journey to a sacred space. And that space, again, is held by the divine presence. And it can't help but permeate who we are, because we are children of God. And every breath we breathe affirms the divine presence. Because, again, we are the children of God. And when that breath is gone, this form is gone. But that's all it is. It's just a form. In our reading this morning, the woman of Samaria asks the question, where is the best place to worship? And thinking maybe he might affirm this particular well where she had come to pray. And he didn't tell her, well, you need to go on pilgrimage to this place, and you need to go here and do puja to the saints and the deities. He said in a very firm way, worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Where is that? Well, we have to find it within ourselves. In spirit and in truth means to commune with the Father in silence. Again, we don't travel anywhere. Our daily meditation is our pilgrimage. Every day, we go to a sacred place within us. We have been gifted, I do say gifted, a physical body, because we, number one, it affirms the presence within us, but also because we have an opportunity to become closer to God. And so to be reborn is blessed, because many souls want to come back and work out their karma, because what is the end of that? As we work it out each day, each moment, each year, we're moving ever closer to self-realization. And that's where we want to go. I mean, that is the most blessed journey we can make, to just keep on the path, tread steady and tread fast. And satsang's so important, because it gathers all of our love and energy together and uplifts it. And it's like a light that goes out into the sky. And it's just, it's hard to put into words, really. You know, some people say, well, the karma can be so bad. It feels, I have so many burdens. But not really. You know, Christ carried the cross for us. The only burdens we have is the ones that we want to hold on to and carry all by ourselves. And that's not to be. Divine Mother says, you are so precious to me. Let me carry them for you, and we'll do this together. You know, the only thing God asks of us is for our love. And I don't know, for some reason, sometimes we don't give all that we have in there. Door of my heart, listen to my soul song. I mean, when you're singing those songs, let what the vibration of what those precious words are just permeate every cell. You know, what is this life flowing through the form? My goodness, I don't remember who said it. It was one of the saints. When I move my hand, it is Jesus. Do you remember who? It is Jesus who moves my hand. And just remember, whatever you do each day, you know, they say that the seeds we sow today will sprout tomorrow. Is it going to be a flower? Or maybe something we don't want in our garden? So that's a point to keep in our hearts. You know, share love, share kindness. That's our path. You know, devotion, service, seva, service. And I just wanted to mention a little bit about the Mandir weekend. I know many of you were there, and I'm sure many of you watched it live streaming. And it was an incredible experience. It was a pilgrimage. There were more than 600 people attending. And we came together just to honor Swamiji. You know, we're all here because of one man who created Ananda, who has written so many books to uplift and inspire us, because we can't do it on our own. We need that input. And then we take those words, those gifts, that vibration inside, and then we offer it up through our hearts. The day flowed so beautifully. They'd been planning for 7 months for this event. And just one uplifting experience led into the other. It was a beautiful, beautiful flow of energy. And the mandir itself is hard to describe, other than words can't describe it because it's so beautiful. The vibration around it, but once you step inside, it's like magic, because you don't feel earthbound anymore. The way they have constructed it, the love and energy they put into it, you look out and it's like you're looking into infinity. And that's who we are too. That's who we are. We're infinite souls. You look out through these windows that go from the floor to the dome ceiling, and you know, where's the altar? What's the altar? You know, we've thought long about that. How do you put an altar in front of a glass window without it feeling heavy and weighted and breaking this expansive view? So what they created was a beautiful arc. It's like the top of this temple. As the lotus is floating above it, the pinnacle. In the mandir, it's the flame. It's a hand-blown flame. And it sits on that acrylic, I guess it's acrylic arch. And it's as if it's just suspended and floating there and calling to us. And they worked with the local glass blower long hours. What can we create? And they came up with this idea of the flame, which we've experienced today in our purification ceremony, how it can be transforming and help us transcend the ego, which often gets in our way. And they worked with him. He worked all day long with the colors and how they do the glass blowing. And he said at the end, he said, you know, we're really not going to know what this looks like until the glass cools and hardens. And this took place over a few hours, and he called them and he said, well, it didn't turn out like we thought it would. He said, come see it. And it's so incredibly beautiful. It's like Divine Mother had in her mind what it was supposed to look like. And that's what it formed when it cooled. And so now it's just floating there as if in midair. And it's a place of pilgrimage. You know, many people will come just for the vibration in that presence. And it's not going to just be Ananda people, devotees that come. The gardens, you know, they have created at Crystal Hermitage a sanctuary for the soul in how beautiful it is, and as a reminder of the beauty within ourselves. And that's an important point, you know. Hold that. God created you. You are absolutely perfect and absolutely beautiful just as you are. And God's there to help us every day. And so I just wanted to read a poem. It's by Mary Stevenson, and probably most of you know it. It's called Footprints in the Sand. Yeah. If I can get it opened up now. Let's see. I did get to type it up, so. And this is her poem. One night I dreamed a dream. As I was walking along the beach with my Lord, across the dark sky flashed scenes of my life. For each scene, I noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and the other one belonging to the Lord. After the last scene of my life passed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. I noticed that many times along the path of my life, especially at the very lowest points and saddest times, there was only one set of footprints. This really troubled me, so I asked the Lord about it. Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I needed you the most, you would leave me. He whispered, my precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never ever during your trials or testings. When you saw only one set of footprints, it was when I carried you.
That long line that periodically shows up, that's where I dragged you. I think it was Einstein who said, we live in such a way that either everything is a miracle or nothing is. And Yogananda said there are only 2 kinds of people in the world. Of all the variety, look around this room even, and then look out. 8 billion individual souls on this planet, and only 2 kinds of people. Those who are seeking God and those who aren't. We have a very precious moment now. Because along the way, in our seeking God, we realize that we can't do it ourselves. And Tushti's poem, Surendra's reminders, the music today, they've all been pointed actually at the same thing, which is our need to have a relationship with God in a form that we can recognize, a form that is committed to one thing. And that's our happiness in God. That's our freedom in God. It's not the indulgence of our ego. It's not, they don't come for their gratification at our expense. They come for one purpose. And that's all of these souls up here. And they act as a dispeller of darkness, a bringer of light. They act as a guru. But they can only do so to the degree that we, if you want to use a mountain climbing metaphor, that we rope up with them. They know the way to the top of the mountain. They've been there. They live there. And they know that everything we seek is there. And they know that we have figured out that everything we seek is there. But we can't get to the top of that mountain unless we rope up. Unless we're willing to trust them, climb with them, let them carry us when we don't have the strength, until we find again the resolve and the power inside ourselves that can carry us to the next steps. And every one of us, this life or another life, will so tie ourselves in to that representative from God who will bring us back home. And that's a bond of discipleship. And it's an eternal bond. It goes far beyond this life. It's a commitment of the soul to God and to the Guru to the best of our ability, cooperate, listen, behave, and to allow God through the Guru, through the teachings, through our Sangha, through our friendships, through daily experience, as they said, every single moment, especially once you become a disciple, every single moment, every gesture, every word from everybody, everything that happens to us is a gift from God for our benefit. There is no exception. And we agree to enter into that relationship. We agree to embrace that and cooperate to the best of our ability. And we have 3 souls today who have come to that point of decision. And it's a terrifying thing. They say that liberation, that samadhi, that oneness with God, is the ego's ultimate disappointment. And even as the glass flame, the eternal flame that was made in glass, as a reminder, didn't turn out at all like people thought it was going to turn out. But they discovered within it far richer beauty than they would have anticipated. The same thing is true with liberation. It doesn't look like we think it's supposed to look, or we'd already be there. We don't know what it looks like, except you can see hints of it in the masters and the lives and the joy and the freshness in Swami Kriyananda and in the lives of those great souls who have given themselves over to the path completely and are on the way. So we have 3 souls who have come today to that decision. They've decided to step across it into the unknown, knowing that everything they want is on the far side of this process. And step by step, as they make the pathway of discipleship, they will find increasingly awakened within them everything they've ever sought. But it may not look like they thought it was going to look. In fact, it probably won't. So it takes tremendous courage. In fact, one of the saints said, there is no human endeavor that takes more courage than to seek God. But then that saint also said, there is no endeavor ever, anywhere, besides this that will give you the fulfillment you seek. So God bless you, all 3, for your courage. God bless you for taking the time to reach this point with integrity, with deep inner questioning, with deep inner reflection, with exploration of what it means to be a disciple. I'd like to invite all 3 of you up. I'd like you to face the altar.